In this episode, I'm going to talk about the customer setting the target for your organization and not you. Um, Obviously, aimed towards executives. And one thing I've learned from working with executives is they love to set targets. They have all types of measures, all types of targets, and they're almost always financial in nature. Now, I'm not saying there aren't some operational things that are out there, but believe me, most of the conversations that I participated in different companies have been about the financials and the targets that they're trying to hit, and they're always mentioned. Every meeting, everything. And rarely are these the right measures. Now, I've talked about that at great length before. Um, with regards to the measures that executives usually focus in on are outcome measures, and what we need are ones that preempt those. And this is where things are lost, and trying to fill that void in there between what causes the outcomes as opposed to the outcomes themselves. And even more rare is a method to achieve whatever the measures are. So somebody sets out, has a measure for, we're going to increase sales 20%, and off they go. And there might be a strategic plan, but that usually doesn't suffice. Um, they need a method in order to achieve it. But to me, it goes back further than that, and that is that they're focusing in, the executives are focusing in on the wrong things in general. And so, what executives should be concerned with are really kind of two levels of one's not really a measure per se, but it's your customer creed that I've talked about. It's kind of a thing I've trademarked. I talk about it in episode 34, which I'll link up. But it comes from the customer creed comes from listening to customers, and there's some universal things that when customers interact with your organization, that they're going to identify, or you need to identify as things that are fundamental to your particular business. Now, they're all different. Even if you're in the same industry, they're not the same thing. That's why I never go through um, a particular industry that often in order to say here's the ones you should use for your industry, because that's what makes your organization, your system, unique compared to all the others, is the types of customers that you have and why they're interacting with your organization is something that's worthy of spending time to understand. And so development of that customer creed comes from listening to customers and understanding what the things are that are important to them. And so, for instance, if it's time frames, then that's something. And often, whether it's service or manufacturing, there are some time frames involved that are important to customers. So, in other words, if a customer says, "I need this by," um, in 3 days, and you don't achieve that, then customer is going to be disappointed. So at the customer creed level, it's that time frames are important, and that becomes part of the customer creed. Then at the second level, you have the customer targets, more of a tactical level. I guess we could maybe put customer creed into the strategic level, understanding that time frames are important to customers, if that's true. And so then the 3 day, finding out when they need something or when the customer expects something, is at the more of the tactical level. And so that becomes the target. How do I, for each customer, not everybody maybe needs it in 3 days, maybe some need it in 5. That was one of the things that I've talked about before with regards to Amazon. We're going to get it to you within a day or the same day or whatever, and that's fine if that's when the customer needs it. Otherwise, it's kind of waste because you're going through a lot of gyrations and expense in order to get it to them the same day when they really don't need it the same day. So understanding what that customer target is becomes very important because at least finding out from the customer, and it's going to vary by customer because they're setting what that target value is. In some cases, you may say 90% of the time, time frames are very important from a customer perspective, but there's always that 10% where they don't care. Right? That's not the most important thing, but it is something that needs to, first of all, be put into your customer creed, and then making sure that when we're interacting with customers that we're developing what that target value is for them. In other words, they may say, nope, it doesn't matter to me, or they may say, I need it tomorrow. Aren't you going to get it to me tomorrow? Because sometimes they don't say, and you have to ask questions, you have to probe. And if that's what's important to customers, you better be asking the question. So it's important, again, that the customer sets the target. Executives don't set the target. That's where you get these top-down, one-size-fit-all types of things that you get from the executive level. So strategically, building the customer creed through what's important to the customer, and then at the more tactical level, what it is. Now, sometimes that may conflict, right? So, for instance, somebody calls your organization and say, look, I need a plumber over here, but, tomorrow. And you say, yeah, because that may conflict with some of the outcome measures, right? So an outcome measure with a financial attached to it says, get that customer. And so if we know the customer needs you there tomorrow and you can't be there tomorrow, but you sign them up anyway and say, oh, we just couldn't make it. And it goes to the next day, no referrals, a poor outcome for the customer. Oh, but I got the sale that week. It's very short-term thinking, as you can see. And eventually that comes back to haunt your financials, because people say, why would I deal with this company? They told me they'd be here tomorrow, and they didn't show up until 3 days later or a day later or whatever it was. So setting those targets and hitting them really does feed into the performance of your organization and the financials ultimately. And these are kind of, they're integrity issues too, that your customer is coming first with regards to what their needs are, and the financials are an outcome of being able to deliver to those needs. So bottom line is, executives need to be involved in the development of the customer creed. It means that they have to spend time listening to phone calls or any interactions between the customer and your organization. And these things should be developed with the customer-facing employees. In other words, again, it's not important just for you to listen and understand and help develop the customer creed, but the customer-facing people are going to be using the customer creed on a daily basis so they can know what questions to ask. That becomes their guide, and they'll add to it or subtract from it, over a period of time. But, the best time to develop this is at the beginning and have it at the fingertips of employees. It becomes what I like to call a touchstone. The customer creed is very much a touchstone for the organization, where you don't need to be micromanage them all the time, because we set it together, executives, front customer facing employees. And then you develop a feedback loop from them. If they say, hey, I found this thing over here that seems to be important. It might be the color of a product. And we need to add that to our creed. So there needs to be this constant renewal of what the customer creed is, because customers' tastes are going to change either over time, or they can change on a dime in some cases and in some industries. So again, it's important to develop the customer creed. We're asking the right questions at the tactical level, that we understand what the customer, that specific customer, Remember, not one size fits all, like the kind of the Amazon approach, and we're going to get it out to you today. Well, I don't need it today. I'm not even going to be home today. But understanding what that target level is for that individual, that gives people individual service. Um, so how do you develop it? If you're struggling with this particular concept, I do workshops. They're anywhere from 1 to 5 days on site for organizations. But there's also my executive education program that this is a part of, where it can kind of walks you through how to develop your customer creed. And, you could kind of do it yourself, and perfectly okay with that. Matter of fact, sometimes I encourage it before I get involved with organizations, because they need to take time. I need to know that they're committed to what they're doing. If I come in and they're kind of half committed, and oh, I didn't know you're coming in today, type of thing. If they've already been working on it, it usually means that they're pretty serious about trying to uh, understand the concepts and execute to them, rather than just giving lip service to it. So that's what I wanted to cover this week. And remember, there is always a better way.